And that's what going live looks like. Now we are live and broadcasting to you around the interwebs at just after 7 in the morning here in New Zealand, where you are joined from New Zealand by my good self, this bald bad motherfucker. And also we are joined by the lovely Jess in another part of New Zealand. And then on the other side of the world, we have two British people who are going to be here, one of whom is currently here and one of whom will be here when she gets here, I guess. Anyway, Jonathan's here. Good to see you, mate.
And you?
Rachel will be with us presently, I guess, when she gets her stuff together or whatever it is. So let's start with a round of the instructions for Q&A sessions. They are simple. You put your question up in the chat window. And what you do is you put a large Q and then a colon and then type your question and then you type a question mark. That makes it much easier for Ted to find the questions and pass them on. Good to see you, Abs. Abs is also representing the UK. Good to see you in the house.
Smashing.
Right. Good. Rick's here from the US. Lovely. Lovely. Kenneth Hughes is here in the house. The lovely, lovely Ayani is here. Good to see you. Shaya's here, of course, as usual. The feral grandma. All the usual suspects. Vicky, the kosher carnivore from the States, is here. Awesome. Right. So let's crack on, shall we? While we wait for Rachel to show up, if she's going to make it. Questions. Right. We'll go in a random order for each question. I'll just select whoever's going to go first to answer the question. We'll get through as many as we can. We've got an hour or so, I think, for the session, and then we'll be concluding after that. All right, so here is question number 1. It reads, should you avoid heating food in a microwave? And if so, is there a reason why? Okay, there are a number of opinions on this. Let us see what they are. Jess, microwaves.
No, I don't use them. Don't own one. Don't have one in my house.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Just because they zap the nutrients out of the food, and yeah, I just don't bother with microwaves. I got rid of mine over a decade ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just from scratch. Like if you heat something up, you just shove it in a pan and heat it up. It never ever comes out good in a microwave anyway.
Right. Good. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on microwaves?
Fair shout. We're a type of frequency, aren't they? Apparently.
Mm.
No. I think it's, I mean, like Jess said, you might as well just cook it from scratch. The only instance where I'd say, yeah, maybe it's useful to use a microwave is if you're struggling to get food down, you're taking your food to work, you're trying to be prepared and all that. But a lot of the people doing a carnivore diet, say you go to work, say you do a, I don't know, 9-hour shift, or maybe eat first thing in the morning when you get up, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock, maybe you eat after work. Maybe at lunchtime you just have a cool snack, so maybe pickled eggs. I think Jess is largely right. I think you do lose some nutrition from food every time you cook it. Every time you cook it more and more, although it can be more digestible, there's always an element of the titration of vitamin C. Perhaps some electrolytes might leak out a little bit, some B vitamins maybe. I don't think it's a massive difference in terms of like nutrition composition, but it's enough to sort of say, well, if you're trying to eat the best diet possible, why not try and maximize the nutrition you're getting from it? And like she said as well, like Jess said, food tastes like shit when it comes out of the microwave for the large part. You're not going to cook a steak in the microwave.
No.
At best, you might be able to steam a chicken breast in there, but why are you eating chicken breast, guys? Let's trying to get shredded out your mind. What's the point? Eat chicken thighs, roast it, put it on the barbecue. Tastes much better. Charred meat tastes good.
Jess.
Yeah, I saw someone the other day using a sandwich press just with a brown paper bag. So they just put their meat into the bag, stuck it in the sandwich press. Like there's other ways if you're in a work environment to reheat your food if you need to. But I quite fancy cold meat and cold, so it's just, I think there's other ways.
Mm. Cool. Right, in this house we own a microwave. There is one here. We do use it for reheating occasionally, but we wouldn't use it as the primary means of cooking, I wouldn't have thought. So that's what happens here. All right. What are the possible reasons for a high binding globulin and relatively low free T in a carnivore diet? Let's start with Jonathan and then we'll go to Jess on sex hormones. Oops, you've gone silent there, Jonathan. There you go.
Apologies.
Yeah.
I'm heavy breathing at the moment because it's bloody hot.
Well, you're lucky. It's bloody cold
hormones,
here.
It's roasted. We had 30 degrees the other day. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, get back to the question. So, yeah, as we know, like the thing is, people always chase these numbers, reference ranges. We look at Sean Baker, the prime example. Low testosterone, just beat a world record in the indoor rowing. Does that mean he's failing? No. He's a high caliber individual. He performs well mentally, physically. He's got a very busy schedule. He doesn't seem to be deteriorating because he's got lower testosterone. My testosterone readings fall somewhere around the middle of the chart. So I can't remember what it was now, but it's something like 20 or something, 25. I don't know what it is. That's when I'm natural. Hint, hint.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to that point quite quickly, quite easily. I don't seem to have a deleterious effect on my body composition, regardless of where I'm at. I think as long as you're within that sort of, largely speaking, within that bracket, it doesn't make a big difference. The same thing's kind of true of like the thyroid hormone. People say, "Oh, your thyroid's a bit lower when you're on carnivore, keto, or low carb because your metabolism's slow." No, it's not. Thyroid hormone has lots of actions in the body. Part of it, downstream in the cascade of events, is that it is an antioxidant. That's also what it can help do. Why do you need more antioxidants in your diet? Or to protect yourself from the glycation from carbohydrate consumption. So largely speaking, I think it's nonsense. And there are other hormones which are probably as important, maybe more important downstream. You're looking at things like DHT, pregnenolone, DHEA, cortisol, estrogen, estradiol, progesterone. Now, it's all about what your testosterone is and what it converts down to. I convert very low to estrogen, so I can always appear quite lean. I'm not prone to fat disposition or anything like that. So although testosterone being high is okay, great, but if your estrogen's also bloody high, what's the point? Because then you've got to counteract the effects of that. You're more likely to gain body fat. And it's like, what's the point in having a high testosterone if you've got another cascade of hormones doing the opposite thing, which are feminizing you if you're a man? So that's my brief understanding of it. I'm not a endocrinologist, but that's kind of my take on it. But what about you, Bart?
Very good. Well, we'll go to Jess first. Jess, low free T, high 6 binding globulin on a carnivore diet.
There's so many questions in that. Like,
yeah.
How many times did you have it tested? What were the conditions that you had it tested? What is the normative data that you're comparing it to? Who's telling you this? Like, there's just too many questions to answer that. And there's so many components of health that it is what is an indicator of what exactly. I would be looking at someone's, and how I work with clients is I'd be looking at their symptoms. How are you presenting? What are your issues? What are your health concerns? And then let's look at it. And then if you were to do some testing, it needs to be the same, because a blood test is just one snapshot in time. And
Brilliant.
unless you do it with repetition and the same conditions and blah, 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 it just means jack all.
Yeah.
So I would be looking at how you feel in yourself, how your body is, compares, how your results are, how your performance is, all those things before I would look at talking about trying to messing around with things.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect, Jess. Spot on. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. A one-off test is a one-off test, and things can affect a one-off test. And people are obsessed with numbers on labs for some reason without looking at exactly what Jess just said, which was, basically, how do you feel? How do you perform? How are things? Because, remember not long ago when Sean Baker was accused of having low T because he had a one-off low T test that he took one morning? Well, it turns out he did a heavy exercise session the day before, so shock me, what a surprise. And anyone who would look you in the face with a straight face and tell you that Sean Baker has low testosterone, look at the boy. 6'5", 250 pounds of muscle, the holder of currently, I think, 3 world records for physically demanding activities. Of course he's got low T. Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway.
Joke.
Yep, looks like Rachel's here, but we'll wait for her to pop in and say g'day. In the meantime, we can crack on with the next question. Let's go to me first. Should you drink fluids before or after a meal? You should drink fluids when you are thirsty. And there's no clock that I would put on that. And with respect to before, after, or during a meal, I don't think it makes any huge difference. It certainly doesn't to me. Whether it does or not to you, I don't know. So, Jess has just popped out, so I guess that means you're next, Jonathan.
I'm next.
Yes, you're
the
next.
Bold guy.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, largely speaking, when people come to me with this sort of question, it usually is providing me with some inference that they're having digestive issues. So in which case I say, are you having digestive issues? Well, diluting your stomach acid at a time when you're trying to, create protease enzymes, which are at a specific concentration at a certain pH within your gut, is going to be really, really tricky if you're diluting it to fuck. So in that instance, I'd say, yeah, maybe give it half an hour either side of your meals. But then saying that, if you're thirsty, what's going to be better for you? Drinking to first, then eating after that. Because sometimes, people mix up, the hunger signals of like food with water, with salt, with hydration, with sugar, and so you just start putting all these confounding variables together. You don't know which one's which. But yeah, I mean, I have a cup of bone broth at the moment with every meal. So I have 4 meals a day, and I quite like that. I just make sure it's not like a liter of it. It's maybe like a cup. That seems to suit me well with my expenditure, how much I sweat, how much I need in terms of like salt, vitamins, minerals, all sorts of things. So yeah, I think it's largely experimental. I don't think you can go too far wrong if you give yourself a bit of a gap. But if you're thirsty, drink. You're probably going to be worse off by not drinking and being 3% dehydrated than to give it half an hour, then eat half an hour later, in my opinion. You can't neglect hydration. That's one thing. We know, we can't dry fast forever. We can water fast for quite a long time. We can not eat for a long period of time. So that's kind of the way I work things through denomination of what's most important.
Yep. Okie dokie. Cool bananas. Jess, do you have any rules that you set yourself around how much you drink, when you drink, and how that relates to food intake?
No, not
Good.
at all.
Good.
Just the same as you, drink when I'm thirsty. I have had clients, that like girls particularly going carnivore and struggling to get enough food in. That's when I would look at like, okay, when are you drinking fluid? Because it can affect your ability to take in more food because people are feeling full quicker and stuff, like weird things like that. So if there's an issue as well with like absorption or digestion, then we might look at kind of timings of liquid, but no. It also depends, what are you talking about you're drinking? Like if you're drinking, say, tea, for example, something that could inhibit the absorption of the nutrients out of the food that you're eating, then I wouldn't pair it with food at that time. So what are you drinking? What are your goals? That would all play into it.
Exactly. Booyakasha! In it.
In it.
Apparently, when I had the orange lenses on, I looked like LEG. No.
I think that's
Yes.
The apparel was very, very suited, but that's about it, really.
Right.
The skin tone was a bit off. A few shades, maybe.
All right. Good. I'm just looking through the questions, guys. Here we go. If your goal is hypertrophy, is it more beneficial to split your protein target into 2 to 4 meals rather than having it all in one meal? My opinion is no. Eat in one meal per day, ideally, whether you're looking for hypertrophy or whether you're not. Others are free to have other opinions, of course. However, Do be aware that having a different opinion from me is defined by the rules on this channel as hate speech. Hate speech is not allowable here. So in turn, perhaps you'd all like to agree with me. Starting with, hey, Rachel, good to see you. Let's start with Jess, who's going to agree with me about the fact that you should eat once a day.
I don't know.
Oh, you suck. Hate speech. Hate speech. Fucking hate speech.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will.
Carry on. All right.
I can't get in enough meals. I can't get in enough food in one meal. I just can't get enough food, and I get full, like I was talking about before with liquid, like I get full really rapidly. And so I wouldn't get in what I require for energy demands in eating in one meal. So I eat 2 typically, sometimes 3 a day. Also depends on how old you are. What are your goals? How are your hormones? What are you trying to achieve? Because you might want to start off your day by eating a fatty, protein-rich breakfast, depending on what you're trying to, aim for.
Love it. Excellent stuff, and well considered as usual. The lovely Rachel joins us. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I was having some technical issues. So
yes, we saw that you were, but we couldn't really do much about it from here. But anyway, You're here, and that's great. The question is, how many times a day is ideal to eat when you're looking for hypertrophy?
For hypertrophy, well, I can only speak on what I do really, and what I do is I go by eating intuitively. So I just eat, and depending on what my needs are at the time. So obviously, if I am training hard, then that usually looks like it's more food, more protein. So at the moment, I eat a minimum of 2 meals a day. Bart won't like that.
All right.
But mainly eat 3 meals a day. Yeah, and that's where I find really good results. I have, in the last few weeks, I actually did drop it down just because I was busy, and I just found that I felt a bit sluggish, and it's really funny because I always kind of look to see what my when I check out my body composition, I kind of check out my abs. And in those few weeks where I wasn't eating that much, they weren't that great. And then I had a few days where I absolutely stuffed my face, stuffed my face, ate loads. I went to an all-you-can-eat restaurant, ate loads of meat. And then the next day I woke up really lean, and I was like, oh, look at that.
Mini priming seems to work. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan, help me deal with all this estrogenic hate speech.
I don't know how much help I'm going to be. I think in theory and practice, most people should be able to eat enough food in one meal. So like the average person walking around should be able to eat their food in one meal, get that insulin spike, get the kidneys chucking out what they need to chuck out in terms of electrolyte balance and sorting through things. I eat 4 meals per day. I used to eat 5 or 6 or 7. I can eat 3 meals. I had 3 meals today. It depends how busy I am. I think largely speaking, it depends on your activity levels, your body mass, and depends how far above your natural body mass you are. So, for example, my body mass in terms of muscularity is higher than most people's. Therefore, I'm not of a natural diet, if that makes sense. I have to get more food in. Could I stuff myself in one meal? Yeah. But I'm going to be in bed for the next 2 hours lying down with my gut out here. My stomach capacity is meant to hold perhaps 400 or 500 mil at a given time without being significantly overstretched. For me to get in the amount of food that I eat, and I know you know how much protein I eat, it's insane. I'm not really going to do that realistically in 1 meal per day. And speaking with clients and just generally people that I've spoken to in the carnivore space, most people, men are eating about 2 meals per day I've spoken with. Women are eating about 2, maybe in a snack as well. So I find women tend to eat more frequently than men. That's just my anecdotal experience. Maybe they have meals out of friends and stuff like that, but largely speaking, it doesn't make a difference. And there was a study that came out in the Cell Journal.
Studies
I believe
show.
was January. Studies show that.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So something like, I don't know, if it's like January this year, did a video on it. They compared 25 grams of protein versus 100 grams of protein. They said your body still deals with that 100 grams of protein. So in the instance of Bart K here, if he's eating hypothetically, I don't know, 120 protein per day, which is like a big ass steak, then he'll get all the nutrients he needs. His body will deal with it exactly as it's meant to be dealing with it without too much disturbance at all. In the far side of things, so Eddie Hall, 200 kilo man, muscular, trains like madman. swims, runs, walks, does all sorts of stuff, gyms and all sorts. He's not going to be able to do 500 grams, 600, 700 grams of protein with matching fat or more in a given day, without seriously damaging himself and probably giving himself a fucking choking hazard.
Nice.
So in that case, it's mostly dealt with by body mass. Most people I speak with exactly two to 3 meals a day. I'd say anyone really eating more than 4 meals per day better be bigger than me.
Right. Good.
Realistically.
Lovely. Like it.
I'm of the same mind of all of you, basically, yeah.
Good work, guys. Love it. Let me throw you another one. Here's fun. Apparently, Scott is new here. Welcome, Scott. Glad that you're here. Rachel's popped out again. I was going to ask her first on this one. Oh, you're back. Good. I'm going to ask you this one first, Rachel. I was just saying Scott Johnson is clearly new here. And Scott's question is saturated fat something to worry about on a carnivore diet?
I like that we laugh.
Notice we're all laughing. We're not laughing at you, Scott. We're laughing with you because I guess you're throwing us that so that we can all give you a one-word answer. But you can give us more than one word if you like. Rachel, off you go.
The quick one is no. No, we don't need to worry about it. In my opinion, we don't need to worry about it. I mean, there's lots of carnivores out there that have been... The funny thing is people gain health with the carnivore diet. They go to the doctors and then they get told, oh, you've got high cholesterol. I had this same thing. And I had a cardiologist ring me up one day and they said, oh, your cholesterol is high. And they were going to give me a statin, basically. And then I got talking to him and I said, look, the studies show this, this and this. And he was like, oh, and he was all taken aback. We ended up being on the phone for half an hour and he said it's the best conversation he's ever had. At the end of the conversation, he said, you've got absolutely nothing to worry about. You're at 0 risk. You do not need to take a statin. Carry on what you're doing. Be healthy, be well. And that was it really, basically. And I was like, so he called me saying I needed a statin. By the end of the call, he was like, you need nothing. Everything's fine. You're doing well. And I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Love it.
But yeah, short answer, no. And if you look at the long-term carnivores, a lot of these carnivores have high cholesterol and then they go and get a CAC scan and they get a 0. So obviously the CAC scan is scanning of the arteries and that comes back a 0. So it's quite reassuring. And how can you be so deadly ill if you feel so great? Everything's up, everything's improving, your health's amazing. You're telling the doctor, I feel wonderful, I feel amazing. Like before, I couldn't get out of bed and things like that. And now you're telling them you can get out, you can do this stuff. And then they're like, oh, you need a statin, you're gonna, you're at high risk of this thing, but it's not.
Yep, excellent. Jess, saturated fat.
Yeah, it's see, I never ever worry about studies. I don't care what a study tells you. Like, what does you tell you? What does N = 1 for you mean? And for us, and like Rachel said, most long-term carnivores, you are the healthiest and wellest you've ever been in your life. What does a number mean? How is it taken? Who took it? What are they comparing it to? Like, it's just a number that they've plucked out, and they can change. Remember, they can change the ranges of that data and the like the recommendations of what's healthy as much as they want. So what used to be high cholesterol, they move, and it's like other readings. They choose when they say that something is high or something is an issue. Now, if you have no symptoms, and obviously remember that we evolved eating wheat. We're made as human beings to eat saturated fat, to eat animal fats, and it is what we absorb best. It is what we function off best. And before ultra-processed foods and the agricultural revolution and all of the other things that came about when we started eating these fake foods, essentially, we didn't have any of these diseases. They didn't even exist back in the day. So I would just go to, what did we evolve eating? What have humans eaten for hundreds and thousands of years, if not millions of years, right? And what is the impact of that on health? I've been in the health industry 22 years, done all the things, been low fat, high plants, been vegetarian, detoxing, fasting, all the things. And this is the healthiest I've ever been. So I take something and I try it on myself for a period of time without other things being changed at the same time. And I look at how does that make me feel? What is the results of that on me? And then I try it on a ton of clients before I recommend it to anybody. So you don't
Excellent.
need to worry about animal fat.
Absolutely correct in my mind as well. Jonathan, how does all of that make you feel?
Find it very unsettling. I went to my GP last week, and I had a short consult with Professor Bart, of course, because I'm not going to settle with what they say to me. These GPs, they don't know dick about fuck, as you always say. Anyway, this absolute cocksplat, moron. You can imagine the visual. Pale, gaunt to fuck. He's walking around on crutches. He probably injured himself from being a vegan. I don't know. Anyway, long story short, he was looking at my blood test results. Now, what I was concerned with is markers that are sensible to look at. HbA1c, CRP, iron. What was the other one? Different markers of inflammation, thyroid panel, things like that. I came off a bodybuilding competition about 2 months ago. And he said, and his first thought was like, "Oh, I think one of my numbers was a bit high. I think his triglycerides was a little bit high in terms of the range." And I was asking about it. It's like, "Oh, your HDL cholesterol." I was like, "Sorry, what's HDL cholesterol?" Oh, it's like the other one. It's not LDL cholesterol. It's the other one. Anyway, I was a bit dumbfounded here because I was like, "Okay, so our body's producing something naturally in response to something I'm doing wrong." And he goes, "Well, you just come off competition, bodybuilding, that sort of thing. It's going to be a bit elevated." And I said, "Yeah, but why would your body do something which harms you? Why would your body put something into your blood which harms you?" And he couldn't answer it. And I sort of pointed out the statistics, the data, sort of mentioned that sort of stuff. And he's like, "Well, it's not according to my research." I'm like, I said, "Sorry, but you haven't done any research, Sonny Jim."
Love it. Oh,
which
good.
is accurate. He hasn't done any research.
No, he hasn't.
Because otherwise he'd know better. He'd know better.
Yeah.
No training statistical analysis, nothing. Dickle.
Yeah.
I was pissed.
I
was pissed.
Fair enough.
And it's people like that, making people like me ill.
Right. Don't hold back, Jonathan. Tell us how you really feel.
Very upset. I was very upset.
Yes. Tell Ted.
I was not impressed.
In fact, use Ted to show us where the nasty doctor touched you.
Touch me.
All right. Good.
It's dreadful, but yeah, that's my take.
Dreadful.
Don't worry about it. Don't stress.
Good. How do you get more sleep as a carnivore, Rachel?
How do you get more sleep? Well, you need to follow there's some things that can help with your sleep, like not being near what I'm doing at the moment with lots of blue light. So blue light blocking glasses could be one thing. Just putting down the technology at night is another thing. Obviously, you can take magnesium glycinate roughly about an hour before bed.
Nice.
Having a cool room is better for sleep hygiene. Not overthinking. Even reading a book in bed with a light is not great for sleep. I know people do that and they think that it's going to help them sleep, but actually it can do the opposite because of the light. So it's just sensible things, really, cutting things out. Some will say not to eat right close to bed, but then I've heard other people saying that eating closer to bed can help you sleep through the night. So that one, I'm a bit kind of jury's out on that one for me. But yeah, the things that I concentrate really is not being too overstimulated just before bed, screen time, obviously not drinking too much water as well. But if you have a big kind of protein meal before bed, that can make you need to urinate in the night. So avoiding that can be helpful as well.
Awesome. I would suggest not having a hardcore NRT therapy session with Jess that day.
Yeah, not working out at all in the evening.
That can mess you up.
That'll mess your hormones up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jess, other things, electrical grounding perhaps? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, how you set up your day from your morning is actually how you're going to sleep. So the processes that kick off from the circadian lights and our hormones starting in the day starts from the morning. So if you want to sleep well at night, you need to get morning light first thing in the morning. Like Rach said, you want to be wearing blue blockers if you're going to be in artificial lighting until you can get your eyes in natural light. And that's going to kick off your cortisol levels and set you up so that it drops and melatonin comes up at the right time for you to go to bed. So how you set up your day very much impacts your evening. The other thing I would say is food-wise, depending on what you're eating. because you do not want to be spiking your insulin levels before you go to sleep. So if you're eating, like Rach said, if you're eating something that's high in fat and high in protein, it's not going to have the same impact on your blood sugar as, say, having some carbohydrates like that. So rule of thumb with my clients is I usually say 4 hours before bed, ideally, is when you want to finish your last meal of the day. And that just allows your blood sugar levels to come back down. And then once there's no insulin in your blood and in your system anymore, then you can release HGH, which is human growth hormone. Then you release melatonin, and then you get into that deep sleep. So you've got to kind of set yourself up to stack yourself into that best environment possible for sleeping. Same thing, don't be on screens and out of bed at the very minimum. Have little things on your phone like the option to turn your screens red, etc. Like you can get these little things that allow you to take that blue light out, because that's going to affect your brain. And what else do I tell people for sleep? Oh yeah, lots of grounding, lots of earthing, making sure that you're getting sufficient sunlight during the day. So you're getting the gamma rays you need, you're getting the UV rays that you require during the day. Yeah, there's quite a lot to it. I do sleep programs for people because, like Rach said as well, if you're waking up to wee in the night, then your body isn't going through the detoxification of the liver as well as the cellular regeneration that it requires in the night. Even if you're sleeping, if you're not going through these processes, you can wake up feeling completely unrefreshed and your body won't heal itself and detox itself fully.
Awesome, awesome. So, Jonathan, sleeping things, rub one out or what?
Well, if I wasn't like 7% body fat, I could probably rub one out tonight and get to sleep, but unfortunately not.
Right.
When you're very lean, you have no interest at all in women or sexual interaction at all.
Well, shit, who wants that?
It'd be the ultimate biohack though, honestly, guys. If you're listening to this, you think, how do I get to sleep? Have a quick go. Trust me. But yeah, anyway.
I don't agree with that at all. When you have sex, it releases a whole heap of different hormones into your system that actually...
I fall asleep.
I think men fall asleep and I think women wake up.
During I fall asleep.
Oh, I love it. Good. All right.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think I'm of the same. I pretty much run the same kind of program that Professor Bart K does in terms of like my scheduling. I go outside when it's sunny. I go to bed when it's not. Glasses, grounding. I try to put blue blockers on my screens and things like that. This person that mentioned the question, they're getting 7 hours a night. That's not that bad. Honestly, carnivores do tend to sleep less. People with the carnivore diet space do sleep less than the average Western dieter. Your detox pathways are upregulated, as Jessica pointed out. And Rachel made a point about the protein. Yeah, absolutely. If you eat too much protein too close to bed, you do end up having more diuresis during the night. The only thing I'll say is that some people may benefit from extra fat close to bed. The cortisol dulling effect seems to be quite significant for some people. Depends who you are, but there's a lot of nuance to it. Myself, I go to bed early. I wake up really fucking early. I try to time it so when I'm asleep, it's dark out. When I'm awake, it's light out. I do find in the summer months I'm awake a lot longer, so I'm only sleeping 5 hours a night at the moment. In winter months, I can sleep maybe 8 or 9 hours. Yeah, all these biohacks that Jess mentioned are absolutely, definitely helpful. Outside of that, I mean, there's a million and one things. Depends what your symptomology is presenting as. So I'd book a consult with Bart, myself, Jess, Rachel. We'll probably find a bottleneck somewhere in what you're doing. But if you're doing, the thing is, if you're doing 7 hours sleep a night and you feel good, don't worry about it. 7's fine. Leave it. Don't touch it.
Yeah, don't fix things that aren't broken. Yeah, I agree with that. Don't fix things that aren't broken. People are always looking for things to fix. What bloods should I get? Well, what are your symptoms? None. Well, that's the exact same answer to what bloods you should be getting then. For goodness sake. Anyway, he's a lumberjack and he's okay. No singing. All right, what's next? Do cordless headphones adversely affect your brain? My opinion is we don't know yet, but I'm not going to use them unless I have to. Precautionary. Do you guys, any of you guys use cordless headphones or any of that kind of cordless gear? Jess doesn't? No?
I do when I'm cycling to and from the gym.
Righto.
But only because when I'm cycling, it's not safe for me to be unplugging, plugging on.
Right.
You know, when I'm cycling a bike, I'm a bit of a cripple, so I do need to be.
Well, we know that when you're plugging, you just fall asleep some.
I'm always falling asleep, especially when plugging.
Oh, you heard it first here on this channel. This is where the real action happens. Rightio. Rachel, cordless headphones, not headless
like
cord
the heads.
phones.
We like the heads.
Yeah, I like head too.
I bet you do.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be one of those days.
I went for a phase, and I actually saw something about the headless, not headless, but about I'm not going to go into it. Actually, it's completely off topic. But yeah, I went through a phase, and I was using, because I like to listen to podcasts, and obviously for a few years I was Sean Baker's podcast editor, so I used to have to keep up with our podcasts and things like that. So the wireless just made it easy. I could just put them in and do my housework and do whatever I had to do for the day. So it's like doing two, three, four things at once and getting it done. So I found it helpful, but obviously there's a lot of bad press for wireless headphones. I don't know though.
I think the jury's out. I agree completely. So does anybody on the panel like to stick things up your anus at all?
Right.
I did a teaspoon once.
Did you? You stuck a teaspoon up your anus?
Well, the thin end of it.
Right. Well, of course, the thin end, obviously.
I was very constipated. It was late at night. I wasn't in a position to get to the hospital or anything.
Right.
But yeah, I did have to use one of my grandmother's teaspoons.
Yeah.
Was this recent? Is this why you was carnivore?
This was about 6 years ago. I was under heavy medication at that time, so using lots of codeine, things like that. So I was blocked up a lot of the time. Magnesium citrate, all that sort of stuff wasn't working. So yeah, it was out of necessity. It's either leave it there or get rid of it. So yeah, that was unpleasant.
I asked a mathematician about it once. I said to the mathematician, "What do you do about constipation?" He says, "Oh, I'll work it out with a pencil." Oh dear, it's deteriorated. I knew it was all going to go wrong.
Badly. I thought you were joking when you asked that question about anus. I was like, what?
No, somebody wanted to know about enemas.
I want to answer. I have had one enema in my whole life because I tried it out, and I would not, write home about it. I wouldn't do it again. And then the only other time is when I had my breast explant surgery last year, and I went to London and had a whole heap of treatment, lipid transfusions and all sorts, because I basically poisoned myself with breast implants for 20 years. And some of the protocols that the specialists were using was making these concoctions of, what was in it? PC and glucothiamine and all the stuff that you'd blend up in the blender and put it in the syringe and shove it up your butt. So I had to do those frequently for a few weeks for part of that treatment to detoxify and heal myself from my breast implant illness.
Okay. All right. Another person who is one of these people who is a devotee of the Church of Labs. What do my labs say? Well,
Church of Labs.
The Church of Labs. Yes, the Labs Church. On carnivore diet for 4 months, got labs done. Total cholesterol jumped from 221 to 334. Good. That's your body doing what it's supposed to do. LDL is 190. Fantastic. That's under the control of your genes, which will absolutely dictate that at all times. Well, the genes and the interaction of those genes with the environment in which they're placed at that time. It's all quite normal. Trigs are 42. Good. Trig to HDL ratio is 0.9. Fine. Yep. I am lean. Am I a lean mass hyperresponder? Well, lean mass hyperresponder is one of those things that people might identify as. And who are we to say otherwise? We're not bigots here. Perhaps you could enter the Olympic lean mass hyperresponder competition and see if your opponent lasts more than 46 seconds or something like that, perhaps. I'm not a fan of the lean mass hyperresponder idea, if you hadn't picked it up already. Neither am I a fan of one Dr. Nicholas Norwitz, if you hadn't picked that one up either. Yeah, this is something that is actually not helpful to our community, this whole idea, because the idea is predicated on an assumption that lean mass hyperresponders, or whatever the purple fuck that is, are somehow special. They're a different population from the rest of us. They don't need to worry about their cholesterol, whereas the rest of us do, apparently, which is false. So it's not useful. It's just noise that actually, yeah, that's my opinion. Doesn't have to be anybody else's, but don't forget the rules here about hate speech. We can't have any of that going on.
I have nothing to add at all to that. I completely agree.
Okay. Does anybody have anything? Yeah, I mean, you are actually allowed to disagree with me if you want to, really. Of course, it will involve a visit from Ted, and he will bring the bucket of soapy frogs.
I actually stopped listening when you said vegan. Like,
Right, good. There you go.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just like my brain went.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Well, it wasn't really so much a question. It says it's a question. Well, it ends as a question. Am I a lean mass hyperresponder? Who knows? Because that's not actually well defined scientifically.
Yeah.
It is a person who phenotypically presents as having certain parameters on 3 tests that you can take on a person's physiological profile. It's meaningless. It's nonsense. It's a waste of time in my mind. Yes. Oh, fuck, here we go again. Is high cholesterol associated or causal in any adverse conditions? No, neither, it seems. It's a theology. It's propaganda that you've been sold by others with agendas to push. Probably those that want you on statins. Fancy telling Rachel, a fit young lady in her prime with no health risk factors whatsoever, that she needs a statin. I'm glad that doctor changed their mind and went, okay, yeah, fair enough, you're making a good point. But a lot of doctors wouldn't change their mind. A lot of doctors would say, if then, paint by numbers. This cholesterol is above the level I think is good, therefore this fit young lady ought to have a statin, which is only likely to actually cause her problems. It's disgraceful. Anyway.
It's good though, right?
Well,
to actually answer him though and actually educate him. And my mum did the same thing when her doctor tried to get her on statin. She sat down and she talked him through all the pieces, and he was like, oh my goodness, like she knew more about it than he did. And that is something to consider. GPs do not have nutritional training. It's like a couple of hours and they're taught what they want them to learn. I worked in a medical centre, an accident emergency and health clinic for like 7.5 years as I was going through university. And I saw the behind the scenes of doctors and nurses and the drug reps and the pharmaceutical, all the things. Like, I've seen it. I understand that doctors sadly are more prescribed to push medication and drugs than look at preventative means of health, or actually addressing, like, when has your doctor ever said to you, what have you eaten when you've gone health concern? It's like none. At least if you take your dog to the vet, they're going to say, what did your dog eat? Like, we know that what we eat impacts on our health, and most doctors are tunnel visioned into what they've been what they've been trained with and what they believe to be true, but they haven't also looked deep enough. Like, I wouldn't listen.
Good. And just remind us, Jess, when you did that university study that you did, and at that time you were working in that clinic, who was the professor who supervised your research dissertation again?
It's Rachel.
Was it?
No, it was you, Bart. You were one of my professors at uni.
There you go. But it's not true though. I made it up. I never was a professor, and I did it wrong. Apparently. Good. How do you deal with severe digestive blockages? Well, if you're in New Zealand, call 111 if you have a severe digestive blockage. And if you're in other countries, it might be 911 or 999, depending where you are. Or perhaps get the spoon out, Jonathan says. Yes. Dear idea. What do you mean by severe digestive blockages? That is an emergency that needs dealing with right now, otherwise you're going to die. Others. Let's go to Rachel first. What do you think about severe digestive blockages?
So severe does sound quite drastic. It sounds quite like a big emergency. But I know there are quite a few people in the community that when they change their diet and they become carnivore, their bowel movements reduce. So they actually say that that's constipation, but it's not. It's just that you've got less waste going in, you've got less waste coming out, so they will reduce. Some people, I do find that if people overeat on cheese, that can really block you up, I've found. And obviously they might need more fat, they might need to add some more salt. Salt flushes can help, magnesium citrate can help. Yeah, some people would obviously suggest fasting. Yeah, there's just a few things. I haven't really come across that a great deal in the carnivore community while I've been coaching, to be honest. It's really not a big thing.
No. People will say they're constipated, but actually what it is you're just not shitting as much as you used to. And the reason for that is because you absorb 98% of muscle and fat that you eat. There is nothing to shit to speak of. So have a feel around, have a palpation, dig around, see if you can find hard, lumpy shit, which you should be able to feel. And are you in pain, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. Jonathan, anything to add on that before we move on?
Some people tend to eat just too lean.
Yeah.
When you eat too lean, it becomes less mass effectively. You do need fatty acids with their associated short chain fatty acids that are comprised of that to actually feed the colonocytes, which allow things to go through. There's also part of action, which is, smooth muscle tissue, which is involved in, also technical name for it. There's a technical word for it, Bart. You know what it is.
Sorry, I was listening.
Where the muscle, is it peristalsis?
Yeah.
Peristalsis.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so if those muscle tissues aren't working properly because you're not feeding your body fat, the colonocytes aren't being fed the butyrate, propionic acid, things like that, then they're not going to let things flow through as freely. So some people, rendered fat might do the job. If you boil up some beef tallow, some beef dripping, have that in a soup or a mug with a bit of salt, like Rachel said, that might do the job. That might be just what you need. So
brilliant, love it. Daniel found an odd beef bacon at your local Kroger. I suppose there is no other ingredient but beef. However, it does contain 1 gram of sugar. Well, then there is at least one other ingredient, isn't there? Sugar. Is it unsafe to eat? Well, listen, if you ever eat a single gram of sugar any time in your life whatsoever, you never were a carnivore, you did it wrong. You need to hand in your card and report to Ted for public naming and shaming. And he will bring his wetsuit with the bottom cut out, and he will also bring his rampant wildebeest. Anybody else think differently? Don't forget the laws on hate speech.
Even the food labels that say no nitrates added do have them, guys. So even it says nitrate free, it does have nitrates in it. All cured meat does have nitrates in it.
Yeah.
So it will in effect always have at least 2 free ingredients anyway. So yeah, I completely agree.
Awesome. Good.
Don't worry about the 1 gram of sugar, guys. It's nothing.
1 gram won't kill you. No, you're quite right. Lance would like to see some facking. Well, is this not the kind of 4-way fact session you'd like to see? No comments from anybody? Thanks a lot. Leave me hanging.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lance is always up for a bit of facking.
Yeah, that's it. Good. I like a bit of facking too. Yeah.
I have a comment.
Okay, let's have it.
With the constipation question from before, like Bart said, I would just be looking at, like, do you have any symptoms? Have you got distension of your abdomen? Are you in pain? Is there discomfort? If, like Bart said, if you palpate the area, are you feeling any lumps? Like, that was a big thing with a lot of my clients getting confused about what constipation is, because, like you said, it's just not going to the toilet, but that's not actually constipation. So just I just wanted to touch on that. And then with carnivores anyway, if you are finding that your stools are getting too dry or compacted or pebbling or anything like that, then it is that your fat levels are out. So you would need to bump up your fat slightly. And like Jonathan was saying, in an extreme case, you could melt it, because obviously liquid fat is going to have a more rapid effect on that. So depending on where you're at, and then vice versa, if you're finding that your stools are too loose, then you want to back off on your fat levels slightly. So you can adjust your digestive system essentially by changing the levels of fat that you're eating if you're having issues with it.
Right. Yeah. Cool. All right. Good question here from somebody who can't spell their name without a number. That's a bad sign. We know one other bloke that can't spell their name without using a number, and what they say isn't very good either. Let's see if what you have to say is good. Dr. Laszlo Boros says that constant ketosis is our normal state and you don't need to cycle out. People like Bella are also on high fat. So why should we cycle out of ketogenesis with a protein 1 meal per day? Those guys don't have thyroid issues. So what is it that I'm talking about? Well then, who wants to have a crack at that one first?
Well, we need enough insulin secreted in at least one hit, one bolus each day, ideally each day, for the kidneys to have that signal to say, okay, flush out the electrolytes, deposit them where they need to be. Otherwise, you get to this low insulin state. I believe the ratio is something like 1.2 to 1 in terms of insulin to glucagon, something like that. That's kind of like the ideal sort of state. So your body will always be in a slight state of wanting to store more than empty more. Otherwise, you're just going to run into being starved, basically. And Bella doesn't follow a high-fat carnivore diet. She doesn't eat as much as what she says. She doesn't eat kilos upon kilos of meat either. She eats the same as everyone else does. So I wouldn't follow what you see in the videos on the screen, guys, isn't representative of what people actually do. You know, like the reels and that is bollocks.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, anyone that thinks that the person I am in real life off camera is anything like the character I play on YouTube, you are out of your fucking mind. Do you think Pim would stick around for that? What are you talking about?
No, she's there for the guitar solos and the the ominous, tranquil songs you sing here at night.
It used to be all about the music, but I've lost my way.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, so Jess, ketogenesis, is it okay to be in ketosis all the time without a break, 24/7?
Come out of it anyway. Like, you got to remember that if you eat levels of protein, it's going to kick you out anyway. We're meant to come in and out. So no. And you got to remember that there are levels of carbohydrates in meat. So it's unlikely if you're eating sufficient levels that you're not going to be in and out of ketosis. And we are made to go in and out of ketosis.
Yeah. Rachel will be right back. Is the message. That's the message. Good. Don't fear the fat. Good. Like it. Like it. I watched this guy, Vegan Police or something. You mean Vegetable Police? Casey? He's as funny as hell. He's a comedian. That's what he does. He does funny stuff. It's supposed to be funny. You're not supposed to take him seriously.
Bowel movement, timing. Why would you do that?
God knows what's going on in the world. What's going on in my area? Goodness me. Right, scanning for questions. Not seeing too many questions.
Oops. Here she goes.
All right, Jess. There you go. Do you like dick and cider?
I don't even know what that is. So
do you not? Do you not? I can show you if you like.
What? Dick and cider.
Dick and cider, yeah.
I don't drink cider. It's like obviously sugar and alcohol, and I don't tend to drink very much. If I do, I would just go for like a clean vodka or gin with the soda water and maybe some fresh lemon in it, or a glass of wine. But I've just done 6 weeks without it. I go long periods without drinking at all.
Jess, you've got 3 kids. You must like dick and cider. Surely. And as for you, Rachel, 4 of them. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious.
I don't know about the cider though. I actually had to read that question because I thought you said something completely different.
I did. It was a joke.
I didn't get it either until the second time.
I know. I thought you were just pretending not to get the joke. Yeah. Good.
It's early. It's too early.
Yep. Does eating fruit, veg, grains, and with your meat inhibit the absorption of your meat? Jonathan.
Yeah, and we only need one study to prove that, which was a study where they had, I believe, a corn tortilla wrap. They mixed it with, I believe, black beans and I think it was beef or another animal source protein. And they found that there was a negative chelation effect from the oxalates, tannins, lectins, gluten, whatever plant material anti-nutrients were in there. And they found that actually reduced the uptake of nutrition from that given food. Another example, to me, it's very obvious. Turmeric, that's full of oxalates, it binds to iron. People can become anemic from using turmeric extract, all those supplements. Spinach, almonds, kale. Oxalate's the most obvious one where it seems to be quite causal. And we can see that where people are becoming anemic on the anorexia vegana diet.
Yes, anorexia vegana. Excellent. Yes, salt is rock. Yes, excellent. That's yet more class commentary from our friend that can't spell his name without a number in it. Good. Also, Earth is flat and stare directly at sun. Good. Good. Okay. Now, there was a sensible question here that I saw before. In the meantime, studies show that not following all of the panelists on today's show on all their social media accounts and sending them all your money, not doing that, studies show is associated with late night visits from Lord Edward Yellow, King of the Bears, and he will bring his small guillotine. Yes, he will. Where are the questions? Here's a question. Right. What is the effect of VO2 max type on training on the heart and longevity? What do you mean VO2 max type? VO2 max is a measurement of your maximal oxygen uptake per unit time. It's a measurement of your so-called cardiovascular fitness. What is the effect of that, I suppose, on training on the heart and longevity? Well, it depends on your mode of training as to what the effect will be on your health long term. Jonathan, tell us about how sensible it is to be a bodybuilder, for example.
It's pretty daft, guys. I just show you how to do it in a somewhat more safe way. If there's going to be one thing I say to people that are on a carnivore diet, find a way to get taurine in your diet. It does help protect your left ventricular hypertrophy from occurring. I've had the scans myself, my whole bodily system pretty much, and I don't have an enlarged heart, but I look like I should have it. So that's what I'll be looking at there. You don't really want that. It's not ideal. Professor Barquet and I've collaborated quite a few times to talk about heart health, endurance athletes, body mass. The bigger the person, the more stress you put in the body, the bigger the heart will be. It's not indicated, it's not helpful to be muscular or overly fit. Walk or sprint, do a bit of resistance training, the sensible amounts, sensible, sort of frequency, sensible intensity. Don't do any more. Do the minimal effective dose. Unless your sport requires you to be doing marathons each day, don't do marathons each day.
Right. Good. Love it. Jess, do you think women should train or recover differently at that time of the month or not? Yes, you do? Tell us about it.
Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? When we're going through that, we are losing massive amounts of iron and all sorts of different things. So you can't be training at the same output when you're under those conditions. So what I do very much listen to my body. Like I do micro trainings as well. So I do short, sharp things, either of maximal things like sprinting, etc. And I'll even do that, but not usually on day one of my cycle. It's usually day two. Day one, I'm just pretty much just tired and just looking after my energy. I'd still ground. I'd still go to the beach and watch the sunrise. Like I still do the other things to support my hormones and my health, but I wouldn't necessarily train. However, on some random days you have the energy, you just do it. So it's very much about a personal preference and what your health situation is, because I have no problems. I don't have heavy periods. I'm very light. I don't get any PMS. I don't get any symptoms or any pain or any bloating or any mood, really. I just get a little bit fatigued on day one and that's about it. And I have seen people have really significant problems with their periods and hormones, go carnivore and heal through all of that and have really gentle, really happy cyclic months.
Super duper fantastic. And while we've got you in the spotlight, Jess, here's another one which I think would be best answered by you at the stage. And I'm sure Rachel would have some input into this as well. Regarding children, you've got some of those, including one that's quite young. Tell us about Winter, her diet, how that's made up and how long that's been going on for, and then tell us all about everything that's gone wrong with it, which is nothing, is really, as far as I can tell, is it?
No, sure. When I went carnivore, so remember, I've been strict carnivore since January 22. So that's like 2.5 years. And before that, I was heavy meat based for a good year, low plant oxalates, that type of jazz, before I went carnivore fully, but strictly from January 22. When I did that, I transitioned my kids as well. So they gradually went through the same kind of process as me about 3.5 years ago, where we started taking out the, like Jonathan was saying, the high oxalate plants and the most toxic plants first, and just working on our ratios, just bumping up their fats and meat and protein and bringing the carbohydrate level down. So I just kind of did this gradually. And then what we did do is just kept in the low oxalate vegetables. So if they want to have the odd bit of pickles or some iceberg lettuce or a little bit of, you know, seedless, skinless pumpkin or something like that, then they can choose to have those things. What we found, though, is that they just started turning away from even those things. So, you know, when we'd have burgers, for example, you'd have the burger and the cheese and the bacon and the egg and like this amazing meaty stack. And I would offer them iceberg lettuce to kind of put in a wrap, and so they could have it, but they just didn't eat it. And I was having like $8 or $9 bloody heads of lettuce go rotting in the bottom of my fridge. And so I was like, well, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to keep buying it if it's just rotting away. It is absolutely the human adult or human child species specific way of eating and thriving, and that is meat and fats. So they've been on that for however long. My daughter, my youngest, is actually 3.5, so she's been carnivore her whole life. So she got introduced to carnivore right from the get-go, and the very first meals that she ever ate, solid foods, at 4.5 months, 5 months, was meat.
Awesome.
And what we did with that is we just got slow cooked meat, and we just shredded it up, and we just fed it to her, and she started with that really young.
Right.
So just point out that my 8-year-old, so I've got 11, 8, and 3. My 8-year-old had real bad problems with digestion, autoimmune problems, and we healed all of her issues from going carnivore.
Incredible.
So, yeah.
But apparently, according to TEDx, it's not suitable. Well, that's an opinion. And
like every single vital nutrient and mineral required is found in one piece of beef.
Correct.
So tell me how that is not suitable for any human, let alone their age.
It's an opinion that we've been given.
Give me a how. I'd love to know how, because it's rubbish.
Yeah. Well, the thing about opinions is that they're just like arseholes, aren't they? In that most everybody has one, and it's full of shit.
What experience have you had to say that it's not suitable for children?
He's just joking. She's just joking. Clearly, it's just sarcasm. Ha ha! You should probably put sarcasm in brackets after it. Otherwise, we'll jump all over you and say, no, dickhead.
I get this from people. I had the school fight me about meat. I've had people come at me. I've had family members come at me about how I feed my children. I have random strangers come at me for how I feed my children. I am giving them everything that they require to thrive and nothing else. You are putting poisons and ultra-processed fake foods in their mouths and saying that it's child care, it's child abuse.
Yeah.
You are their friend, you are their parent, and it is your job to make sure that they get everything they require to thrive. Sorry, I do get worked up about it because...
Why not? Why not? We all get attacked. I've been attacked, believe it or not.
I'm a great mother, so...
I've seen it. Right. Still looking for questions. Still looking for the next question.
Rachel, we just had a question about, is carnivore suitable for kids? Which I just got all angry about.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. I wish that actually I had started mine when... I just wish I could reverse back time and actually change my diet when I was pregnant. Because I think from before pregnancy, is really important, maybe like 2 years before pregnancy, to get all your nutrients built up. But at that time, and frustratingly, when I went through my pregnancies and had my babies, I breastfed them all, obviously, but with the midwives would come in and they would say to me, don't worry about what you're eating. If you want to eat chocolate bars all day, that's fine when I'm breastfeeding. If you want to eat chocolate bars all day, that's fine. Just make sure you get enough calories. And that is probably the worst advice I've ever heard in my life.
Calories, you say? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calories in, calories out. Just hit them calories and don't worry about the nutrients. Your baby doesn't need them, obviously. It's like the craziest advice I've ever had. But yeah,
Nice.
with mine, my eldest is 21. So it's a bit different with me because she works, she buys her own food, she can just do exactly what she wants. So my next child is 19. Then I have a 15-year-old and an 8-year-old. So my 8-year-old is mainly carnivore. But when he visits family, they give him other stuff, even when I tell him not to.
Yeah.
So, but he actually, what's good about that is when he eats things, because he just went away on holiday. And when he was away, the first 2 days, he had steak. It was an all-inclusive deal there. So he had steak, and I was really happy with that. The next day, he just had a pile of ribs, really happy with that. And then he started to explore the junk, but it gave him a really bad belly. And he was saying himself, well, I ate that food and now I feel really sick, so I don't want to keep doing that again. So it actually does teach them in a way, you know, because he's used to feeling really good all the time. And he's like a really well-built, you know, he's got some good muscle. He hasn't got any like big amounts of fat on him. He's made really well. Like when he was a baby, he used to, even though I wasn't carnivore back then, but we used to give him chicken bones to teeve on instead of the plastic nonsense that you buy in the shops, stuff like that. And I found that was quite helpful. But yeah, so I've done, I did when the kids were growing up, the best that I thought at the time. So I used to make them eat fruit and veg and stuff, which they laugh about now because I never buy it. I just don't buy it. It's not in the house.
Yeah.
But years ago, it used to be, okay, so you have to eat all this veg on your plate. But they got really, really good at hiding it. Like it wasn't until years now, like recently, that they can laugh about it and talk to me about it. But they said they used to like open up the window, open up the barbecue, shove the broccoli in there, close it back down again, you know, when I left the room. They used to do all these really crazy things to just get rid of the veg because they didn't want to eat it.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah,
And it looks like you've given your age away there a bit, Rachel. You gave it away a bit there. Do you want to tell people how old you are? I don't care if you don't, but
well, in a few weeks I'm going to be 41.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
tell us again about how desperately bad for you this carnivore diet is that you can look so shabby at 40.
Yeah, I know, it's absolutely awful. I'm completely falling apart at the seams.
Obviously, yeah. This show brought to you by Dick & Cider. Yeah.
We've got someone that's been asking the same question about 4 times over and he's getting quite rattled.
Right.
We might want to answer it. I think it's just, so for anyone listening to this right now, wondering, oh, why is Bart not picking on my question? He's not doing it deliberately. One, he needs to prioritize the super chats and super donations, that sort of thing. 2, he's using a program which pops the questions on the screen. It doesn't always load them up nicely. So it's not that we're ignoring questions. It's just that it isn't physically showing for him. I can find it on my phone, but I'm having to dig through and sift through to find it. Unfortunately, because people keep spamming the chat with the same question over and over again, it means I can't find them.
Right. What's the question?
The question is from, anyway, the question is from Zek Sanchez.
Yeah.
Given that I eat as much fat as I can absorb, soft stools,
Yeah.
do different amounts of protein greater than 2 grams per kilogram make a significant difference in long-term body composition results and fat absorption?
Depends on a lot of things. How long's a piece of string? Your mileage will vary. It depends on your genes and the environment in which you place those genes at that time and previously to that time. The best way to find out these kind of things is N equals 1. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
No, the question's worded in such a convoluted way, I can't even, my autistic brain can't deal with it, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, go the Meat Militia. Go the Meat Militia indeed. Adam is clearly also new here. Welcome, Adam. We're glad that you've joined us. What anatomical and physiological characteristics make humans carnivores? Well, pretty much all of them. Yeah. In short, if you want the full rundown of all the things that point to us clearly being obligate hypercarnivores, perhaps you should binge watch my channel, Jonathan's channel, and all social media commentaries made by the lovely Jess and the lovely Rachel. And also probably, we should also pay homage to our fine sponsors, Dickens Cider, for the day as well. Jonathan, do you like a bit of Dickens Cider?
A bit of Dickens cider.
Yeah, it's good stuff, isn't it?
Favorite.
Oh, my audience are so juvenile. They really are. Yep. All right. What do we think about cupping, guys? No, not for Jess. I wouldn't do it either, personally. Unless you're talking about that, in which case I'm all for it. But otherwise, not so much. No. Yeah.
Oh, I hear that's good for health.
Yeah. That and a bit of Dickens cider.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. No, I wouldn't do cupping. Would anybody do cupping? I can't see what the benefit of that could possibly be. I mean, because cupping is going to cause you a physical injury, bruising. It's going to break the capillaries under your skin. It's going to cause swelling and inflammation and all sorts of nonsense. Why the hell would you do that? Don't get it. Good question. Is it possible that multiple pieces of epidemiological evidence could be combined to be statistically powerful enough for us to declare something to be causal? Here's my answer. No. Anybody have anything different to add to that? And
No.
if so, you better be ready to defend it.
No, I disagree. I agree.
No.
That made it. I disagree. I agree.
Yes, which? When will my response to Ben Bickman's Randall Cycle video come out? I'm told by the editor that I will have it back tomorrow or later today. I need to look through it to make sure that what he's done is what I want done and change anything around a bit that isn't. So give me a day or so with it. Maybe Tuesday for most of you, Wednesday for those of you who are in the right part of the world. That's about when it'll be.
What's he rambling about the random?
Oh, Ben Bickman said in a video recently, blah, 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 about the Randall cycle. Everything he said was absolutely fine until it suddenly wasn't. When he said, and, what people don't understand is that the thing that dictates, he said, fuel use, carbs or fat, is insulin. Oh, all right then, Ben, if you say so. And then I explained at length why that's not correct, unfortunately, using the biochemistry and stuff, actual science and stuff. I also had a discussion with young Eddie Goki about the same thing yesterday, and that will be published after the response video to Bickman is published, so that'll be later in the week as well, because Eddie and I had a great discussion. You'll get to see behind-the-scenes discussions between two intellectuals, I guess, and how we sort of dealt with all of that and threw it around. You might like it. You might go, what the hell are these two on about? I don't know. It'll be good. Yes, that's right. Later next week. Correct.
For carnivores a couple of years ago when I first started, and I asked Bart to do a little short, really clear, really easy to understand the Randall cycle, how it's invoked, what's involved. Oh my God, it was 5 minutes, and then all of my clients were like, "What?" Your simplicity for most people was just like, whoosh.
Yeah. Anyway, so you might like it. You might go, what are these two talking about? But I think my response to the Ben Bickman video is more about making the point without fleshing it out completely. Whereas when I sat down with Eddie yesterday, he and I kind of fleshed it right out. So, and that's probably the first time I've ever actually done that regarding the Randall cycle in an attempt to use, although Eddie and I were speaking technically, we used things that I think people should be able to understand, hopefully. Let me know anyway in the comments under the video. Tell me that you understood it or you didn't when it comes out. In the meantime, somebody, let's go with Jonathan first. I don't know why, just cause. How much protein will you find in 100 grams of lean beef?
Question. If it's lean beef, it's going to have a bit more protein in it versus the fat content. If it's a raw weight, 100 grams of raw lean beef is approximately 20 grams of protein per 100 grams.
Spot on.
If you cook it, it's about 25 grams per 100 grams. if you cook it to fuck, it's about 30. If you boil it to fuck where all the moisture's come out and it's dry as arseholes, then it's going to be maybe 32 grams. So that's pretty much it.
Dry arsehole? I'd have that seen to, Jonathan.
Yeah, it can get quite dry.
Good. All right. Hey, listen, guys, it's 20 past the hour. We've been going an hour and 20. If anyone is, having to do other things, we understand that. And people can say their farewells and pop off if they want to, or we'll stick around as long as there are questions coming up for those that want to do that as well.
I've got 10 minutes. So if anybody has specific questions for me, then pop.
10 minutes for Jess?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll do 10 more minutes as well.
Right. All right, we'll do 10 more minutes is what we'll do. Good. We'll do 10 more minutes, so we'll finish at 1:30. So if you've got your questions and you want them answered, what you need to do at this point probably is pinned a super chat, and that will bring that comment to the top of the list so it will be visible. And Ted, he's trying, bless him, but he's been busily twiddling the knobs the whole time, and he hasn't really got any kind of handle on the knobs at all. Perhaps it's because he has a huge deficiency of Dickens cider. Who knows? Is it possible to overeat fat? Does all the excess leave in the stools? To a point, you will retain fat and it will be stored on your body, to a point, according to your maximum physiological rate of doing that. But above that, yes, you will shit it out. Just like anything that you take in overplus, you'll get rid of it somehow. Except sugar, apparently. Yes. All right. Still looking for the final questions by way of super chat. All right. Well, in the meantime, it seems there aren't questions flooding through on the super chats. Why don't we have a quick round of whose social media is where and where do people go to find and subscribe to the social media of all our fine participants today. Let's start with Rachel. What's your social media?
So I'm on socials at carnivore.fitness, and that is most socials. But I've also got a second page for my products, because I don't know if everyone knows that I do tallow products, and that's on at tallow.glow. I'm mainly on Instagram. I am on the other ones as well, but I don't really bother with them. So Instagram is where you're going to find me.
Very good. Jess.
So I am the Carnivore Mummy.
The Carnivore Mummy. Very good.
I think it's Jonathan's page. I also have the Jessica treatment, which is the neuromuscular treatment that I specialize in. And you can find me there. And my YouTube channel is I'm just starting to use it, which should just be the Carnivore Mummy as well. It is.
Absolutely. You're right. You'll find both Jess and Rachel's social media in the show notes underneath this video. They're already there. Jonathan's is on the screen right now, and I'll add those to the show notes later. It was an afterthought that Jonathan was going to join us today, so I didn't do that ahead of time. But I'll put them in later for people that don't know where to find Jonathan. You'll be able to do that later. Well, you can do it right now by looking at the screen, but also there'll be a clickable format in the show notes later. £2 we got from Arena Fresh Kinchko. So I can't pronounce such words at this time of the morning. Thank you, Arena. Thank you, Jonathan. You saved my day. And we've got £2 there, so that's good. Is £2 enough for a pint of Dickens cider?
Did she have a question?
No, just £2 for the sake of it. And we appreciate it. It keeps the lights on. It pays for Ted's appearance fee, which is exorbitant, frankly. Ted charges the earth to show up on these shows and to twiddle the knobs. Keep twiddling, Ted. Good boy. He's doing his thing. Random comments from people. Baking soda. Okay, if you say so. Good. Okay, now this is just getting weird. Isn't it? It's just getting weird. I think we're out of questions, though, aren't we, kids? It seems like
we've got one question from Jill. If you want to read that out.
Yep.
Postmenopausal, trying to gain muscle while losing fat.
Yep.
Which would be best, carnivore or keto?
Carnivore every day, any day of the week for me.
Every day,
and twice on Sundays
for anyone.
Yep. Carnivore is the appropriate diet for a human being. It's the species appropriate diet. Nothing wrong with a ketogenic approach per se, except in my mind, in that it's sold to people as that the goal of the thing is to be in ketosis and to have ketones. And that's not the goal of it. It never was. So, yeah. I would always tend
But
toward...
someone
Yep. Go on.
Sorry, someone created a YouTube channel 12 minutes ago.
Yep.
And their name is Joey Schweitzer.
Yeah. I can
and
see where this is
basically
going
they're trying
already.
to yeah, they're trying to bamboozle you. So
go on then. Have a go.
White farmed raised meat and then worry about pesticides and the plant toxins. Carnivore inconsistencies. White farmed meat, Bart.
Why eat farmed meat? Why not?
Goodbye.
Why not?
He's gone. And he's gone.
Yeah, that happened the last time someone with a similar name had a crack at me. Didn't last 5 minutes, did he? Well, he did. He stuck around for an hour.
He got 12 minutes.
Oh, there you
got
go.
12. So.
Yeah, good. Dear, oh dear, Joey. Dear, oh dear.
Oh, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Remember when we spoke about doing this live and I was saying that there's this big debate at the moment between carnivore and the alkaline diet, and people are saying that the alkaline diet is good for the body, and there's obviously Dr. Sebi and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I went on to a podcast, a popular podcast, and I debated a guy that was talking about that.
Yeah.
And obviously we all know that what you eat isn't going to affect your body's alkalinity.
Right.
But can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, probably the best way I can do that is to direct people to a series of about 5 or 6 videos that were posted in the last 2 months. And I'm having a backwards and forwards with a bloke called Dr. James DiNicolantonio, who is of the opinion that your diet can have an effect on your body pH in a meaningful way, and that there can be deleterious side effects of not alkalinizing your diet. It's covered in huge detail there with the science over, as I say, 5 or 6 different videos. Wherein James comes on in his truly masculine way and says things like, here's a study that proves Bart K absolutely wrong.
I bet it doesn't. I bet it doesn't.
The thing is, you look at the paper that absolutely proves Bart K wrong, and you go, great, where is the data that proves me wrong in this paper? And I scanned through the whole paper, read the whole paper very, very carefully. Guess how many data points were included in that paper? None at all. It was an opinion piece.
Amazing.
Not a single one.
Usually.
James had a go about 5 times at assailing my argument about acid-base control, homeostasis in the human, well, in any animal, frankly, and failed abysmally 5 times over. So I'd go and check that out. I also think that bloke that attempted to debate with you, Rachel, was one hell of a rude motherfucker.
He tried to be.
Yeah, he was really arrogant. He didn't let you speak. He tried to speak over the top of you. That's only the kind of appropriate thing that you can do with vegans, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, there was about 3 people in the room that just every time they asked me a question and then they would speak over me before I even got to answer. And it was like, let me speak. And they were talking about the studies. So I said, okay, let's talk about the studies. Because I was thinking, yeah, let's do that. I'd like to do that. But then they just kept talking over me, and it was just crazy, really. But I've been on quite a few podcasts that are not diet related, and I find it really fascinating because people are so shocked when I then start talking about the carnivore diet, and it opens up a whole nother audience of people. It's like not in an echo chamber and all that kind of stuff. You're actually speaking out of context to other people, which is quite interesting. But there was another one, had this guy, and he was saying, we can eat veg, so that proves that we're omnivores,
right? And
that is definite proof, because we can. I mean, there's lots of things we can do.
Yeah,
doesn't mean we should do it.
You can eat cyanide, can't you?
Yeah.
If
it's going to affect you negatively, should we carry on doing it?
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, there's this whole debate with that as well. Which is,
and you can also have Dickens cider. You can do that.
Yeah, apparently you can.
Not so much me. I'm not so much a one for the Dickens cider myself.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, please.
So with that, and I've had like people jumping in my DMs before trying to get me to buy this like pH waters.
Oh,
and
fuck, yeah.
Alkaline this and rah, 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 that. What are your thoughts on hydrogenized water?
I have had a look at it from the point of view of, number one, is there any potential really deleterious problem that could come out of drinking hydrogen water? I think there isn't. I think it's at least safe. Is it effective, though? Does it have a benefit? Not sure. I haven't seen anything that would convince me. Safe and effective. I'm safe and effective, me. I'm the science. Don't question the science. Trust me. I get all my science from Ted. Ted knows all things about all things.
Safe and effective is quite popular over the last few years, isn't it?
It is, yes. And so is Ted, quite popular. In fact, Ted's been having a bit of a ball, even, as recently as this morning, on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Those that don't know about Ted is over there saying things that I couldn't get away with saying, frankly, and using language even worse than mine, frankly. If you like that kind of thing and you enjoy Ted basically decimating fuckheads, then what you would do is you would follow at HRH_Ted. All comments are Ted's. I take no responsibility for Ted or anything he says online. It's his own thing. I can't do a thing with him, frankly. I mean, two of you at least have got kids. You know what I'm talking about. You can't do a thing with him.
I debated touch what Rachel said. I debated a vegan a few weeks back, and I'm very fortunate to have come across you, obviously, a few years back before to understand how a debate works. And it was like run of the mill, like the same stuff that we always get with like the same questions.
Yeah.
How would you feel about harming poor innocent animals and slaughtering them? I'm like, do you not think I've heard this before, mate?
Yeah.
Do you think I'm going to address that point, or am I going to stay on topic? You have to just be on their fucking case all the time, because they'll try and bamboozle you with this nonsense. I'll try and check up the thumbnail quickly if you guys want to quickly see.
All right.
I think the
It
best
is always the same arguments. It is always repetitive with the arguments. And then they find out a new
That's the vegan.
There he is. Yeah, looks like a vegan, doesn't he?
He's fucked.
Yeah.
He's very pale.
There we go.
Doesn't look. The vegans say to me, because I get sent a lot of, I get tagged in accounts that are meant to be doing really amazing on the vegan diet by someone that I know. And I just say, but he doesn't look healthy. There was this one guy, he said, oh, my friend's been on the fruitarian diet for like something silly, like 20 years or something. And he sent me this post of this guy, and he looked like he was about to die. He looked so unhealthy. There's his skin and bone, long hair, unwashed, kind of looking, lots of wrinkles. There's another guy that I was debating, and I actually thought he was 20 years older than me. And mid-debate, I said to him, how old are you? Because he kept saying, you have to be on the alkaline diet, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I said, but are you on that diet? You're saying you're on that diet and you've got this health problem, that health problem. And he's saying, but it's past trauma that did that. And then when he said his age, he was actually younger than me. And I said, are you kidding me? You're joking me, right? you're younger than me. It was so shocking.
Yeah. Are you having a laugh? Are you having a laugh? Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, panelists, one and all, the lovely Jessica Henrard, NRT practitioner extraordinaire, holder of 50 billion qualifications on all sorts of things and all knowledge of all things, mother to the nation, and also a fan of Dick and cider. Also, we have Rachel, the very, very lovely 40-plus-year-old from the UK, who is involved in coaching and all of that for many years. Also used to be, as she said, the editor for Dr. Baker, which was interesting. I'm sure you could tell us more about that another time, I'm sure. Also, Jonathan, the biggest damn beast on the stage most days. And most myself, days. An absolute legend in my own lunchtime. Yeah, we've enjoyed being with you. We've enjoyed answering your questions. Thank you for the few of you that did super chat or whatever else. Do stick around the channel. Much more coming up, including my response to Professor Ben Bickman and his ideas about how insulin absolutely dictates fuel utilization. No, Ben, it doesn't. Sorry. Discussion with Eddie Goick coming up later in the week. More interviews, more stuff going on. Be here, or else there'll be a visit from Ted. Don't forget to go and follow all of the panelists on their various social medias as well. It's all about cross-pollination, isn't it? And also, don't forget to go and buy tons and tons of Cerule because it's good stuff. And also make sure you wash that down with a good old pint of Dickens cider. See you then next time when we'll be here doing all sorts of crazy stuff again. Catch you then. Say bye-bye nicely, everybody.
See you guys.